Welcome everyone to the Pom and Fazz football show. We have a whirlwind of topics to discuss tonight, but let's get the formalities out of the way. I'm Pom, and as always, I'm joined by reigning European champions, briefly top of the league, Carabao Cup specialist, Mr. Fazz. How are you doing?
On top of the world, mate. On top of the world. West Ham through to the next stage of the Carabao Cup, and football's back. It's rich. It's good. We've got some really good teams going. It's awesome. It's really good to be here and talk about proper stuff, which is lovely.
It's good to talk about. I've got to say, if you're not a Man United fan, it's good to talk about. I'm already itching for the AFL to come back, to be honest. But let's take my mind off things. And the first topic we're going to talk about is, as some of the girls and boys join, we've got Chills, we've got Amy, we've got Big Davey, we've got Timmy, Big Adam, he'll be happy, top of the league, Big Langy. Everyone's here, really. Big Adrian's here as well. Good day to you. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. Jude Bellingham. What a start to his young fledgling career. Wearing Zidane's shirt. It doesn't get really harder than that, does it? Really, if you want to put pressure on yourself. But his form has been simply sensational. And I'd say it'd be fair to say, if the Ballon d'Or was done from the start of this season, he's the clear winner, isn't he? I've never seen a player as young as him be as good.
Mate, I don't even know where to start. I want to start by being a little bit cheeky, which is very unlike me. But I will say this. The fact that anyone in the Premier League outside Man City, I guess, thought they had a chance of signing this bloke. Got rocks in their head. I saw Liverpool fans, Arsenal fans, Tottenham fans, all thinking they could have signed Jude Bellingham before he went to Real. Mate, he's the biggest player in the world. He's a megastar. He's bigger than all those clubs, and he's a Real Madrid player. Like, he is the Galacticos of old, as they used to call them. Like, he is just next level. I can't fault him, and he's probably England's number one hope of winning a trophy in the next 10 years or 12 years.
He could definitely carry him. We got Davey saying Ronaldo, better than Ronaldo at his age. Different players, I'd say. I mean, I was privileged to witness him nearly every week, CR7. Unfortunately, I haven't got to see Bellingham in the flesh. I mean, I think skill-wise, Ronaldo has his number. Ronaldo, his tricks, his flair. But Jude Bellingham, big. I think greatness, as a stats man, I think sometimes stats don't tell you truly greatness, and it's moments. Yeah. And watching the El Clasico, that game was getting away from Real. Barca were the better team. There was a moment of brilliance from him for that first goal. World class. And then he showed his IQ to be there when the time struck. And it was funny because Barca fans were on his case at halftime saying 2 touches and he's given the ball away. And I think that's what greatness is. And that's something that Ronaldo did a lot in his career. But Bellingham already looks the real deal. And that's phenomenal. That is, to me, greatness in big games, in moments. And Bellingham so far showcasing he's a big game player.
He's a big game player. He's a megastar. I just can't praise him enough. I mean, I'm assuming majority of us have watched the David Beckham doco, and the reason I talk about that is because when you see David Beckham going to Real and all that stuff at the age of 28 or whatever, Jude Bellingham is that. He's the megastar of football at the moment. And as Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo start, riding off into the sunset and what careers they've had, we're going to start looking at Juden. And I think he could start overtaking the likes of Mbappe and all that, just because of just way he plays. A complete player. Someone just said, Chris Lang is a complete player. He is a complete player. He can play anywhere and does everything. He controls games. He's not reliant on others. And I think that's what greatness is as well. We saw it with Messi. We saw it with Ronaldo. We saw it with all these players. Is they're not reliant on other people around them. They control the games. They're the main dog. And I'm pretty sure he is going to do that. And I can't wait for him to get that confidence at the international level for England, because he's a special, special player.
Mate, he's something else, and I think Chris Lang nails it. I mean, he's played all across that front three and centrally when they need him. He's pulling the strings. That last 20 minutes, if you haven't seen it, go and watch the last 30 minutes of the El Clasico, because that guy, I don't like to oversell him because he's a young boy, but I remember seeing Zidane play for Real Madrid, and he was something else. Seeing Zidane in the flesh, something else. Control, did whatever he wanted with the ball. He was like he was on another planet of talent. And we've got Adam here, greatest English talent since. That is a good question. I would say Langy nails it. I mean, Rooney, you've got to remember, was a bit younger when he came to Man United. I'd say at 20 had the development of Jude Bellingham. It's going to be interesting where Bellingham goes, because he seems to get better year on year, where I would have said Rooney reached his peak at 22 and then it never died. I'm actually scared where Bellingham can go.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's already at Real. Bit of Fazz about if he played cricket, his nickname would be Fazz. That's how good he is.
I mean, he's good, and this is a good question here. Ballon d'Or, obviously Messi won it. Jude won the Golden Boy, which has been historically a poison chalice. Some of them players have men kicked on, and Balotelli, Joey Wilshere was top 2 in that year as well. They haven't quite gone on to greatness. We have had the exceptions to the rule as well. I think Messi, I think that award, I think it was fair. I think Haaland's year was amazing, but I don't think anyone can argue. I mean, Messi is potentially now he's got the World Cup in the locker. It's tough to argue that he might not be the GOAT. And it pains me because I'm a Ronaldo fanboy.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people saying Haaland, and that's fine. Like, it's not a wrong argument. Like, because Haaland had a disgusting year. Like disgusting. His year was that good, right? But I think a lot of people do forget about the Ballon d'Or. Internationals do play a big role in it as well, and Haaland is, when he plays for Denmark, is like turns into Andy Carroll, like, you know what I mean? So it is hard to compare how much weighting should his Denmark games have, as opposed to, say, Messi's internationals and all that. And yeah, it's a fair argument, but I mean, please.
I mean,
way too much weight winning the World Cup. Geez, how much? It's the greatest.
You know what? I'd agree with Adam if that was just any player, but you look at the Argentinian squad, and I'll say this: I always had Ronaldo saying that the Euros, he catapulted Portugal to win that. Messi, you take Messi out of that Argentinian side, they don't get out of the group.
It is potentially, and this is what's wild about it, and where the conversation does arise with this is, it's potentially one of the worst Argentinian sides for a while. Do you know what I mean? Like, and they won the whole thing. Like, they've had way better teams in World Cups and not won it. So for what Messi did, but too much weight into winning the World Cup. The World Cup's the greatest spectacle on the planet. Like the majority of the weight needs to go to that. To win a World Cup is just a joke. Like any team, any player can be involved in a successful team club because it's all about money, 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 money. World Cups, I mean, that is just down to bollocks pretty much. And absolutely.
I find it hard as well. I mean, Haaland, I think we've also got to say, if we're counting the World Cup, right? We're counting the World Cup because I think Messi and Mbappe arguably had two of the greatest tournaments ever. I mean, Mbappe's final, ridiculous that you do that in a final and you don't have the trophy at the end of it. I mean, that's a crime in itself.
Yeah,
but I think if we count the World Cup, to counter Adam's point as well, Haaland did it in the Premier League. And a lot of the media when Haaland came in is he looks big and strong playing against Germans. Wait till he comes to the Premier League. He won't do it. And that start of Haaland's season was ridiculous. But I will say this, only the one goal against Kurt Zouma when they played. So got pocketed by Kurt Zouma.
And I will say this, Adam, as an individual award, I mean, Messi came second in the Golden Boot of the World Cup. I mean, like, it's not like he was just there for the ride. But no, you're right. And how look, I've got to be honest, I can't have my cake and eat it too. What I mean, so when I ever use the argument about Ronaldo versus Messi, I always refer back to the fact that Ronaldo did it in the biggest, the best, the toughest league in the world where Messi never did. So I've got to use that argument now for Haaland as well. The fact that he did what he did in the Premier League, which is the biggest, best, and toughest league in the world, that has to have lots of weight to it, massive weight to it when talking about that. But they don't weigh league versus league and all that. But I do think it is in a very important caveat when talking about Ronaldo versus Messi, who's the greatest of all time. The conversation, whatever side you're on, there always has to be a conversation in regards to Ronaldo did it in the Premier League, which is the greatest league in the world.
Do you want to hear two of my compelling arguments that I love? Because I think it might be my blindness, but I think Ronaldo's better. And these are my two arguments. One, I think if Messi had transferred to the Premier League at 20, right, at 18, 19, I think he may have adapted. He may have adapted to the Premier League and done it. But I will say this, 100% without any unequivocal certainty, if he transferred to Man City when Ronaldo did, he would have been dog shit. There's no way Messi. And here's my second argument. People always forget Ronaldo had a potentially career-threatening injury and converted from the best winger we have ever seen to a pure striker. If you did that to Messi, there is no way Messi could have changed his way he played. Ronaldo, in my opinion, has the toughest route to greatness, and he surpassed it every time. Because I don't think there is any player I have seen historically, maybe aside from footage of players like George Best and stuff, if you took away a certain aspect of their game, they could have converted into another position. I think he is brilliant.
And I think there's no wrong answer. And I think this is the thing, you know, the morning after the Ballon d'Or, I was having this massive deja vu. I was having the same debate and conversation with a bunch of 10-year-olds that I was having 10 years ago with a bunch of 10-year-olds. It was wild. And there's no wrong. And I said the same thing to them as what I said 10 years ago. There's no wrong answer. No one's wrong when it comes to who's the best out of the two of them. There's just such strong arguments. And the fact that we've had this argument and this debate for 10 years just goes to show the gap between them two and the rest. Do you know what I mean? Like in 10 years' time, are we really going to be talking about Mbappe? I don't think so. Not in the way we talk about Messi and Ronaldo.
Mate, it's insane. And we've got a question about Jude. We'll see more players who can play multiple positions, especially a striker. I mean, a lot of these players now are coming through. Like you watch Garnacho, players across the front three. I watched some under 21s and he was playing as a traditional number 10, which string to his bow. I think I think you'll still see the avenue. In my opinion, I still think you'll see players play one position. I just feel that free role for Bellingham, he's just a freak, like Zidane and players before him. I think he's just a freak who can play anywhere.
Yeah, it's an interesting question in regards to multiple positions. I think you're still going to have your defense is still going to be pretty stock standard, one position players. But you do see a lot of midfielders. Can they sit back? Can they play forward? I just think that's just the evolution of the game. The managers are getting better at, moving players around, not really sticking with a 4-4-2 or, whatever it used to be, a 4-3-3 and saying that's our formation, we're going to go with it. They start, you see it. If you watch closely enough, you see in the middle of a game, they go from back 4 to back 5 to back 3 to, defensive mid to 2 defensive mids to an attacking mid. It just, players have got to rotate. You have someone like, I just think off the top of my head, like Lucas Paqueta for West Ham. He can literally play in front of the back 4, in the central mid, or as an attacking mid, and he can play out left. And during the game, you see him change that position time and time again. Ward-Prowse, they all do it. So I think it's a good question, because I do think that's the evolution of the game. We're just seeing you've got to have that flexibility, because when you do come up against these multi-billion, almost trillion-dollar teams, you have to be creative. You have to start saying, well, just sitting a flat 4-4-2 or 4-3-3 ain't going to work. We need to start moving in games, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. But with Jude, he's a superstar and he can play anywhere.
Fazz is spot on. Like, we'll come to them a bit later. Jacob's asked a question about United. I'll answer it when we get to the Man United section. But Eric Ten Hag, we've started to see the swingman in the Premier League now. Harry Maguire starting at centre-back, finishing as an Alan Shearer striker. Genius coaching. Need to see more of it.
Love it.
It burns, chat. It hurts. Good question here by Jacob, and this is a question without notice. Let's just say Mbappe stays at Paris Saint-Germain, which looks highly unlikely. But let's just say he saw out his entire career there, and he overtook the goal-scoring record. He won 4 Ballon d'Ors. Let's say he wins 4 Ballon d'Ors. He wins the UCL twice. Would you consider him the great? Because I think this is a great question, because he played in France. Would that go against him? Because in my opinion, I think it would do.
Yeah. I've made my stance pretty clear on it. Anyone who speaks to me knows my stance is pretty clear. You got to do it in the Premier League. Full stop. If you're ever going to be in those conversations, you've got to do it. Messi is the outlier in that regard because of how special he is. But I won't even entertain a conversation with anyone unless they play in the Premier League. It's simple as that. You've got, like I said, you've got your Zidane and all those. I get it. But the Premier League, it's the biggest, the best, the hardest. People are scared of it.
I agree with Fazz. We've got to disregard Messi's achievements, because anyone could do it in La Liga, to be honest. Try scoring a hat-trick at London Stadium in the pouring rain. Come and see me.
That's what I mean. There's a big difference when you've got Vladimir Shufal like kneeing you in your quad on a Tuesday night in London or whatever, like far out. It's not even comparable, yeah?
Mate, I'm with you. And Fred Blogs, after doing his Oliver song, we're going to come on to him. So a new segment this week. We're going to showcase someone that's spiritually it. And Fred asks, who's Orazio Fantasia in the EPL? This could
what a great
probably
segue.
be it.
This is literally it. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Dean Ashton, West Ham, Norwich, Crew legend. I remember seeing this guy score a bicycle kick, which was rare in the time against Man United. We beat him, but he scored a bicycle kick. And I remember my pop, massive United fan, looking at me and saying, he's going to lead the line at United in a couple of years. What a talent. And Dean Ashton, probably the best striker the Premier League never got to see. This guy could do everything in bad teams. Bad teams.
Yeah. I mean, just look at the teams he's played for, and with all respect to the love of my life, Crew Alexandra, Norwich City, West Ham. I mean, that's not really needle moving or spine tickling teams, but he just injuries, man. Like every single sport in the world has stories of players who just cruelled by injuries. This man is one of the saddest because what he did was just next level. He was before his time. That big-ish striker who could move, just incredible. And a lot of people won't know much about him unless you did follow West Ham or Norwich, even Crew. But he, one cap. I was actually shocked when I looked at it. It was one cap for England. That's a travesty in itself.
We actually broke him as well.
Yeah.
He did his injury at that midsummer training camp.
Oh, man.
But, I mean, you put it in perspective. I mean, like, at the time, you go back that year, that, like, when he played for Norwich were horrific. Like, they were a bad side. And he was spectacular at times. Do you know what I mean? Scoring goals as well. What was rare for him, scoring goals against big clubs as well, when he was playing for these rubbisher sides. And then when he came to you, he was phenomenal. That FA Cup final goal he scored against Liverpool before Gerrard remembered he was Steven Gerrard. Like, arguably could have won you the trophy. Like, we talk about Messi winning a final, Mbappe. Dean Ashton did that in the biggest trophy of them all in England. And it was a moment of genius that deprived him of that trophy.
Yes, it was, and it isn't often spoken about in West Ham circles that would have, should Steven Gerrard not have done what he did, and we all know what happened in Pepe Reina keeping 2 meters off his line during penalties. But anyway, should that have not happened, Dean Ashton would have automatically stamped himself as a West Ham legend because of it. But another little bit of trivia here, he actually, if my memory serves me right, he broke Mark Schwarzer. He broke his cheekbone back when Schwarzer was playing in, I can't remember who it was, might have been Middlesbrough at the time. And Dean Ashton actually broke his cheekbone, which is a big story in Australia because Mark Schwarzer, obviously goalkeeper for Australia, and Dean Ashton elbow cheekbone. So that's easy to find, I'm pretty sure, on YouTube if you ever want to look it up. But good times.
Mate, how good could Dean Ashton be? Because you know what? You don't see Dean Ashtons anymore. And that's why I like Jude Bellingham. I thought having him on the show with Jude Bellingham, staying at Birmingham, going up a level to another club, Borussia Dortmund are a top team, but not globally, you'd say the upper echelon. Dean Ashton did that, stayed at Crewe, went up another level to Norwich.
Yeah.
Then went to a mid-table West. Presumably next step was United, Chelsea, one of the top Liverpools, one of the top clubs. He did it the right way. You don't see that anymore.
No, so he obviously playing first division, getting promoted with Crewe, goes to Norwich, who were in the Premier League, and then he was in their relegation team, but stayed for the first half of the season. I think and then came to West Ham, and you're right, like that step to West Ham, he did it the right way. It would have been very easy to have jumped from Norwich to at the time at Chelsea. But you know, what would have happened? Would his career have gone differently? Injuries. You know that injury happened at the England training camp, but could it have gone differently? I don't know, but I'm thankful for the time that he spent at West Ham. That's for sure.
Well, I always think you look at that year that like he transferred to you guys. What was it? 05, wasn't it? 05. After a bit and a half in the championship. And then his goals per game started to escalate. Like you had that full year where he was injured in 06, but then 07 banged them in. Before the injury, it was something like 2 goals in four appearances in the Premier League. with 2 assists. It started to look like this was it. And potentially you would have guessed that was his last year at West Ham. Had not the injury happened, you'd imagine that would have been a Liverpool and Man United would have come in for him. It looked like he was starting to hit his straps because he was the complete player that last year at West Ham. He did have shades of Alan Shearer about him. We could be talking about a guy that maybe is England's top goal scorer.
Oh, absolutely. And the fact that he played, and this is the bit that absolutely blew my mind, he was 20. He was in his mid-20s when he played his last competitive game. Mid-20s. Like, he's only 39 now. Like, that blew me when I looked at him. He's only 39 now, and he played his last competitive game in 2009. What the fuck?
Mate, and like Chris says, nowadays, like, he was talked about 16 years old at Crewe. Do you know what I mean? Making his debut at 17. Nowadays, if this happened now, Man City sign him on his 18th birthday. He plays 5 years in Belgium on loan. Maybe breaks in, but more likely goes back to Crewe as a mid-20s, and we never see him again. In these days, it was 2 days. Like, you just go up the ladder, and the finished article came. Maybe, how many players do we think we miss because they jumped too early?
Loads. Squillions. The number is unfathomable how many players we miss because of that.
Like, scary, isn't it?
But you go across most clubs, how many players do they get through their academy? It just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen anymore. Dean
Ashton, God rest him. What a player.
Love him.
What a player. He was Van Nistelrooy incarnate. Good question from Chills. How do you find your football team? I mean, well, it was easy for me. It was a bit like you guys finding your Australian team. It's where you're born, the culture, family gathering, same as how I found Carlton. Fazz, you might have a different story. West Ham is obviously, I'm guessing, a family affair because that's a random team to pick.
Yeah, no child just wakes up one morning and decides they're going to go for West Ham. No, it's basically growing up, it was Sheffield Wednesday or West Ham, and obviously at the time it was easier to choose West Ham than Sheffield Wednesday. But yeah, no, it's family, it's tradition, it's all that stuff. My advice to anyone though, if you are trying to pick a team and you don't have any family connections or anything like that, my advice is simply just find a team that you enjoy watching. Don't pick a player. Don't pick players. That's one of the worst things you can do is pick players, because the amount of transfers and player movement, it'll just ruin it for you. So you kind of got to find something that you enjoy, whether it's the stadium, whether it's the colors, whether it's the chants, whether it's the way they play. Do you want to be a glory hunter and watch the team win trophies all the time? Do you like a battler? I always like the idea of picking a team and supporting them through going up. So yeah, my advice when picking a team would just be doing something like that. Or even then, finding a team who people support that team as well, so give you something to talk about. You know, I find it very tricky sometimes being in Australia, being a West Ham fan. Now, there's a few of us popping up about, but it is very hard to find someone to just have a chat about West Ham. So,
but it is easy to find London rivals to banter on social media, isn't it, Fazz?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I mean, for me, I think a few of my mates that have started watching football, they've just fallen in love with something stupid.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like they've just, it's like sung to them. They've watched it and they've heard the story. One of my mates fell in love with Leicester, ironically, the year they won. So he was watching it and I was like saying, this is mental, they're shit. But like he fell in love with the story and now he's still supporting them even though they've got relegated. struggling. Like he's actually having Fazz issues. Like he's watching a backwater stream, getting a virus. His missus is thinking he's looking at pornography because he's constantly cleaning his thing. But he's just fell in love with that story, the romanticism of it. So it'll sing to you.
Yeah, you're dead set spot on. A funny story, actually having that chat with the old man when I was probably 16, 17, saying, it's important not to, look at these things and do this. And say, mate, I'm not doing what you think I'm doing. I'm just watching some bloody Al Jazeera website, watching West Ham versus Derby County. Fucking funny. The other thing as well when picking a team, like so I look at Collingwood, for example. Now, if I was a Collingwood supporter, which I'm not, much to people's disagreement, I'm not, you'd be crazy not to pick someone like Newcastle. I mean, you got the colours. I mean, it's black and white stripes, like you go for Collingwood because it's, you love their colours and you love the club. So go for Newcastle. Like if you've got no allegiance to anyone, something like that, Carlton, the Blues, go for Chelsea. They're the Blues, like it's
easy. Chelsea is perfect for Carlton fans because they literally taught the best game and have been a serial disappointment, which we've just come out of. So you're kind of used to it. Used to it.
And shit, they love spending money. So yeah.
Right, mate. Everyone doing it. And Fazz, have you watched Ted Lasso? I saw bits of it and I didn't like it. Caveat. I didn't like it.
Look, it was a easy watch. Mrs. liked it, so I got into it. But I will say this: the one thing that I really hated about Ted, and this is the reason this is being asked, I know, because West Ham were somehow cast as the big bads in this show, like the team that's spending squillions of dollars and the team that's run by a dodgy owner, all this stuff. Like it was wild to see because it could not be more opposite to what West Ham is, a bunch of tight asses, right? Like the most gentle club you'll ever see. It was quite funny. It was almost an ironic portrayal of the club of West Ham. And what annoyed me the most is a lot of people who I work with, not football fans by any stretch, would come and actually have a go at me saying, how could you go for West Ham? Have you seen what they're like on Ted Lasso? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it's wild. But yes, I have picked up on that.
Yeah. You know what shits me? This is gonna blow people away, right? Is people with them signs believe at games.
Yeah.
Absolutely fucking kills me. I can't tell you how much it kills me. It actually hurts me on a linear level, but it is what it is, isn't it? But then, questions without notice here. Master versus apprentice. And this ties into our next two topics, but I think this is a really good discussion point here because obviously at the moment, Arsenal absolutely doing terrific at the moment. Spurs, the clubhouse leaders. North London is pumping at the moment. Spurs, obviously 2 points clear. City kind of landlocked at the moment with Arsenal. The master versus the apprentice. Obviously, the recent blood has gone to Arteta with their win. The question I want to ask here is, City have been uncharacteristically out of sorts this year, where Arsenal have been fairly steady. I'd say that even though they're level on points, Arsenal, I think most people would admit, have been better all year. Is this the turning point? Because now Arteta's got that win. Are we seeing, and Davey mentioned it earlier, Ten Hag famously said eras come to an end. Are we seeing maybe an era come to an end now Pep has achieved everything he possibly can do in England?
To keep the conversation going, I'll say, oh yeah, why not? Look, it's an interesting take. I think Man City, there was no question about their ability to win Premier League and all that, but they always had that demon over them about Champions League and stuff like that. And it is always very hard to rock up to a workplace and, what can you achieve that you haven't already? Do they get them motivated? It is very early on, 10 games in. I'll be honest, Tottenham are the caveat in this whole situation because they're ridiculous. They're on top and all that. But neither Arsenal or Man City have impressed me at all. So Master versus Apprentice, we're talking about them because both teams finished 1 and 2 last season. If I were a betting man, which I'm not, I can't see Arsenal getting anywhere near the title at all. I don't think they're going to get anywhere near it. But I still have the faith that City can. I think Liverpool are more likely to win the title than Arsenal. But if we're just simply sticking to Arteta versus Pep, you can't fault what Arteta's done. I love his project. I speak about that regularly. He's got a project. He's got a young team. He's built a young squad. But, and there's a big but, very, very, very rarely do young squads stay together in the Premier League. It's not AFL footy. It's not rebuilds. It's not whatever it is. Very rarely. And I made this comment during the week. The moment a player like Declan Rice achieves whatever he needs to achieve at Arsenal, he'll be gone. The moment Odegaard achieves what he achieves, he'll be gone. They'll be gone, right? That's just the way of the world. They have no love or loyalty. And this is not just Arsenal. This is every player in the Premier League, right? Unless you're Mark Noble, no player has love or loyalty to their club. So it's hard to say we've got this good young team stuck together. We're going to build this project because all of a sudden a club comes in January, offers 100 million for these players, and they're gone. So you kind of got to deal in the now rather than thinking, oh, look at the squad we're putting together for the future. But I do love what Arteta has done. Ramsdale versus Raya. I mean, fucking Helen Keller could see that was coming. So it's not. Oh, mate,
for telling them that.
It's not all rainbows and lollipops and unicorns at Arsenal. There is some issues there that shock horror was going to happen. But at the end of the day, there is no love nor loyalty with any of these. But even their manager himself is not an Arsenal lover. I mean, he talks often and loudly about how much he loved playing at Everton. It's just it's Arsenal fans who just need to calm the farm a bit of saying, look at the squad we've built. Look what we're doing. Oh my goodness. It'll go like that. Click of a finger. If they don't win the league this year, Arsenal, you can put a fork in it and you may as well start something new because they have tried to build with this.
Arsenal definitely are lacking a striker. I mean, I've got to say, you know what does impress me? And you know what? To answer the question, are City cooked? Watching City remind me a lot of Fergie in his last couple of years. You could see that them back-to-back UCLs, winning one and then losing it. And it was always his dream to join the great sides like Juventus, Notts Forest, to go back-to-back. And that was a big thing that he made that statement that he wanted to eradicate England only win one every so often. He wanted to really stamp that Premier League football. And you saw Fergie change. We started signing over 30s. It started to be this minute. And I don't think there's rebuilds, but when I look at City, I think if City don't win this year, I can see Pep going. I think I can see Pep going. Now, where will that be? I don't know. I would say if you were a betting man, it could be back to Barca. It seems a match made in heaven, doesn't it? That MLS have said that he's got an option to leave Messi. You can see Pep Messi back to Nou Camp one more time.
Absolutely. And this is the thing. Man City are in a position where if they don't win it, they failed. It's as simple as that. Now, Chris, I agree with what you're saying. Give it time. The squad is still very young. Might not be this year. But what I'm telling you is if Arsenal do not win it this year, those players will leave. So you can't give it time. There's no such thing as time in Premier League football. People just got to get this out of their head. There's no time. No such thing. If Arsenal do not win the league this year, Those young players who they're so excited about, they're going to leave. And they'll go to Manchester City. Pep might not be there, which is fine. But the way Man City rebuild is by saying, oh, which player here, you haven't won a league, you haven't won a league, you haven't won a league, come, we'll win you the league. That's how it works. That's how they do it. I'm telling you right now, I'll put my entire reputation on it, which is probably worth nothing. But Odegaard, if Arsenal do not win the Premier League, he'll be gone. He'll be gone in the summer, and he'll go to Real, or he'll go to Barca, or he'll go to Man City and achieve. Because they have set the bar. They come out and said, and rightfully so, and I back them here, they've said, we want to win trophies. They just broke a transfer record on an England player because they want to win trophies. Well, you know what? Newsflash, you've just been knocked out of the League Cup. You're not going to win the Premier League. You're certainly not going to win Champions League. So what trophy are you going to win?
Mate, spot on. I mean, they've got to win something. I mean, you talked about the caveat there. You know what does you know what really does impress me, and I think this is interesting. A bit of Spurs love coming to Pom's way here.
Yep.
That Ange has come in there, right? And you know what? Me and Fazz talked a couple of weeks ago that we're sick of everyone copying and pasting Pep's football. And I'll say two things about this. Once Pep leaves, and I'll guarantee now, bookmark this, 3rd of the 11th, within 2 seasons max, Pep will be elsewhere. He'll be either international manager or that. But I'll say this, if he backs the Champions League up, which I think City will, I reckon he goes out on a song. I don't think, looking at what Pep's doing, he wants to do it again. He's already proved it. And like Adam says, he's proved himself. But they will get a manager in, and I guarantee you they will have a United problem. It's a big name. You're following a legend. Pep will be a legend of Man City and football. They'll be scared. Where Ange, we see a lot of coaches come in, and there's only 2 coaches I can remember in the last 10 years who have come in, right, aside from the obvious like Jose and stuff, who have come in and said, "Now, this is my fucking game style. Embrace it." One of them is De Zerbi at Brighton, and the other is Ange. And I've got to say, credit to Ange. He has come to a club, shown no respect for the Premier League, shown no respect for, you've got to sit back and counter-attack these sides. He has come out and said, we're taking 3 points. We're taking 3 points. This is my game style. You can play it from the back. And you know what? Ange, for me, if you are a top 3 club and loser coach, if I was the United chairman, I would be ringing Ange up and saying, how much do you want? If I took over United tomorrow, he would be my first choice, because that arrogance is transcending. And I think Spurs, under Ange, with backing, are the dark horse to break the stranglehold, because there'll be a power vacuum. When Pep Guardiola goes, there's a power vacuum. And right now, I'm with Fazz. I think Liverpool were the experience to steal that vacuum. Outside of that, I think anyone could have it. And Ange, I would say, would be the man who says, I'm taking it.
And this is the point I'm making. Now, I'll give some Arsenal love, all right? One thing that I really love about Arsenal and what they've done is they've shown us that Man City aren't invincible. They've shown us that they can be beaten. And that was always the biggest fear. For any supporter outside of Man City supporters, we all feared for football, didn't we? Like, let's be honest, we all feared for football. And Arsenal have shown that they can be beaten. Now, when I mentioned to Chris about there's no such thing as time in Premier League football, Ange Postecoglou has proven that. He's a smart man. And we mentioned this in our preview when I said he's either going to succeed or he'll be sacked by Christmas. And he knows better than anyone. He couldn't sit back and let this develop or evolve. He had to get in there and he had to do it now. For footy fans, think Michael Voss in his first year at Carlton. He had to come in and achieve there like early on, right? That's what Ange Postecoglou, because he's smart. He's not an idiot. He knows that if he didn't come out like this, if they weren't sitting top of the league now, if they were sitting 6th or 7th, every day, every paper would be This Australian's got no idea. Get rid of him, blah, 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 right? That's where, now, what you were saying about this vacuum of anyone can win it, I think this is the most open season we've had, 10 games in, the most open season we've had for a while. And this is why I keep throwing it back on Arsenal. I'm only saying this because I respect them. I'm only saying this because I think that they deserve, not deserve, that's the wrong word. I think that they're good enough. This is what I'm throwing back on. If Arsenal do not win the league this season, it has to be considered a failure. Has to be. They finished second last season. The biggest choke of all time. The biggest choke of all time, other than Steven Gerrard's slip, I guess. They finished second last season. You can only go up from there. They have to win the league this season because, as you said, City are dropping away. It's anyone's game. Throw a blanket over Tottenham, Liverpool, Arsenal, whoever. Well, Arsenal should be sitting there saying, well, we're the big dogs. We finished second. If they don't win it, it's an utter failure. It has to be. How can you say it's not? How can you say it's not?
Mate,
they spent £100 million on an England international, right, to win it.
Mate, and you say there's no loyalty in football. I mean, Declan Rice didn't even print his shirt before he started singing North London Forever.
yeah. Good on him too. Like, that's insane. Like,
I've got to say, my favorite Declan Rice thing within 24 hours, someone posted Declan Rice and that kid saying, "Please don't leave," and Declan signing his shirt and giving him a hug and telling him to cheer up. Only for 12 hours later, him singing North London Forever at the Arsenal training ground. I'm like, fucking hell, mate. Let them rest. Let them rest, look, mate.
All credit to Deck. He does what he does. He's a super player. But I do find it hilarious in his announcement video for Arsenal. He goes something along the lines of, you can look it up. He goes, "That's right, Gunners. North London's my home now." I'm like, bro, you played for Chelsea, you played for West Ham, now you play for Arsenal. You've only got to get Tottenham on that list and you become the biggest fuckwit in the history of the game. Like, there is no love nor loyalty. Like, it is just wild. He's played for 3 London rivals. Like, how people haven't spoken about that is just wild.
Mate, when Spurs win the title this year, he'll be at Spurs as well. He'll complete the set.
Absolutely.
But no, fair play. Fair play to him.
Amy, you turned on him so quick. Of course I turned on him quick. He fucked off out of my club for no good reason. If anyone can give me one good reason of why he left West Ham to Arsenal, I'll wait.
To be fair, Amy, I think it took Carlos Tevez about 12 minutes before I hated Carlos Tevez. And I love Carlos Tevez. You know what I mean? I defected him. I defected very quickly from him. But
are Arsenal better? Are Arsenal better? One European trophy to none. I'm sorry. And I'm being facetious here. You know I'm being facetious because obviously
Fazz
Arsenal
become Jose.
Because Arsenal are the bigger club. Right? I'm being facetious, right? But Declan Rice said, "I want to win trophies." And he went to Arsenal. Just makes no sense. If he wanted to win trophies, he would have gone to Man City. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, move on from Deck. Poor Arsenal fans. Once he does what he wants with his, he'll go to Real where he belongs with Jude and be on from there.
I suppose he did win a trophy, Fazz. He won the Community Shield.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah. Well done. Well done, Dick.
But talking about trophies, and this leads me on to what we're talking about. You look at the Premier League, right? And this is something that I think is really interesting. Me and Fazz touched on this a couple of weeks ago. Carabao Cup, as we know, you get to enter the Conference League. It's basically a substitute for finishing 7th. Currently, I think this is the most exciting trophy maybe in world football at the moment because you've got a guarantee of a non-Premier League team being in the semi-finals, Port Vale hosting Middlesbrough, but Liverpool were facing the killers of the Community Shield winners, West Ham, Chelsea versus Newcastle, the billionaire battle, and then an intriguing battle, Fulham versus Everton. And you would say let's take Liverpool out of the equation because they're definitely going to finish top 4. No doubt about it. Europe's sewn up for them. You would say the other 7 teams there have got a problem here where this is literally their best medium for winning not only a trophy, but also getting into Europe. Because I would say the Conference League, no offence to Fazz, and but I would say a Premier League team in the Conference League should consider themselves favourites to win that. They should feel any given Sunday they can dick any side in that league, which effectively means they've guaranteed European football for 2 years. So what I'm saying is winning this trophy potentially could catapult a Fulham from 8th to 4th because they can sell European football for 2 years.
Oh, mate, I'm so glad you said it because I've been dying on this hill for so long. The disrespect to the cups from not just clubs but supporters. Sorry, Chris, I don't gamble, but Arsenal aren't winning the league anyway. So, but I don't gamble. So the disrespect from supporters and clubs for the cups is outrageous. And what I mean by that is, I literally had a Tottenham fan say to me, "Oh, it doesn't matter that they got knocked out because they're focusing on the league." I'm just kind of like, hold on a minute. Did you just wake up one morning and think you're Man City? You haven't won a trophy for fuck knows how long. Arsenal fans getting knocked out saying, it's okay. We're focusing on the league. We're focusing on Champions League. What the hell? Like, the disrespect on the whole reason to support teams is to win trophies, is it not? Isn't that what we watch them for? To lift a trophy? Like, dead set. Am I going mad here? There, in my opinion, there is literally only one team in the entire Premier League who can say, it didn't matter, we got knocked out of this one, and that's Man City. Because you know why? Because they've won bulk trophies for so long. They've got bulk trophies, right? They don't need another one of these. But my point is, and look, I do agree. If Tottenham sitting on the top, winning a League Cup isn't going to be that big a deal for them. Same with Arsenal, right? But if you don't win the Premier League and you don't win the Champions League, right? And you signed a £100 million player to win trophies, and you've just been knocked out. I just don't get the mentality behind, it's just a cup. Like, oh, whatever. We want to win on Premier League, Champions League. It's just, I don't mind it in the sense of West Ham because it means that us and Fulham and those types of teams, like you said, have better opportunities now to win these trophies. But when did it become, my question to a lot of people, when did it become okay to go a season without winning a trophy? When did it just become okay? When did Man United become, I know they won it, did they win it last season, didn't they? Right? Yeah, when did it become, when did Arsenal all of a sudden become so big and so good that they don't need to win trophies? Like, what the fuck? I don't get it.
You know what? I think you nailed it there, because as a United fan, I have seen apathy seep into United, where I remember we used to send our under-18s out for these games under Fergie when we would dominate in the Premier League. But we'd be pissed off if they got knocked out of the quarterfinals, semi-finals, because you wanted them to be literally putting pressure on the seniors and saying, nah, we're here, we're winning trophies too. It does feel like there was I got muted for 3 days in a forum the other day because I had to have United fans going, I'm glad we got knocked out of the Carabao. We can focus on the top 4. And I'm like, do you know how shit we are? Like, you're telling me we have to miss 3 games to make the top 4? Like, that says to me we need to fucking win this. But I do want to cover this point by Jacob, and this is why I made my point earlier. Kudus and Alvarez were linked with European moves all summer. I will tell you this now. If they didn't win the Conference Cup and have Europa football, even though they had 100 million from Declan Rice, guaranteed they wouldn't have signed the caliber of footballers like Kudus and Alvarez and James Ward-Prowse. He would have gone somewhere else as well. He would have gone to another team, right, with a bigger scope for getting better, right? They wouldn't have signed them. And I'll tell you what else wouldn't have happened. Paqueta wouldn't have stayed. He would have handed in his transfer request to get to City as opposed to seeing if a deal could come out. And that is what, if I was a fan of Everton, Fulham, Chelsea, Port Vale, Middlesbrough, disregard, and West Ham, I would be thinking, if we win this trophy, we're in Europe next year. It safeguards us if we lose any players, because if they have a decent season, Fulham finish 6th again, people are going to come in for their players. We already know their midfielders were subject to deals. They then have European football, money to spend, prestige. They can replace it with high caliber talent. And I think people are forgetting this about the League Cup.
It is. And West Ham is the perfect example of what you've just said. Should West Ham not achieve European football this season, it's a calamity, because you will have the likes of Paqueta leaving, Kudus would probably leave. It would almost be a just restart. You need it. Once you've got it, you've got to keep it. And I think, and talk about winning trophies, right? Let's break it down to the simplest argument. And I said it before. Why do we watch sport? Because if you watch sport because you like losing, well, hey, everyone has their perversions, I guess. But you watch sport
sometimes.
But you watch sport to lift trophies. I can promise you, Arsenal, and I keep going on about them for a reason. They had their best season last season for a long time, and they were phenomenal. They looked really good, right? But I can tell you now, West Ham fans had more fun last season than any Arsenal fan on this planet, because we lifted a trophy, and that's a fact. If West Ham win this League Cup and Tottenham, Arsenal, Liverpool go the whole season without winning a trophy and finish in the top 4, I promise you, West Ham fans are way more happier on this planet than Arsenal fans and Tottenham fans and Liverpool fans. Isn't that the purpose? Isn't that why we watch sport? Not to say, hey, we finished 2nd and 3rd 4 years in a row and get knocked out in the Champions League in the quarterfinals. Well done. Like, dead set.
Brutal.
No, but she's right. Why do I support West Ham? Because it's a family thing. The same thing. Why do you support Carlton? Why do you support anyone? If you watch football to win too, why do you support Arsenal? It's in your blood. It's why you do it. But you watch it because you want your team to be successful.
And it is the best feeling in the world. You never get tired of it. Like,
mate,
yeah.
I tell you what,
you never get tired of it.
And my heart, dead set, and I never thought these words would come out of my mouth. And I'm stealing something from you here, Pom, because I can't stand Liverpool. But my heart actually bleeds for their fans when Liverpool won the Premier League and they couldn't celebrate it. Yeah. Because of
as a United fan, I think that is the most tragic thing, because
it is brutal. It is brutal. And I'm telling you now, there was no one on the planet more excited, more up and about than when West Ham lifted that trophy last season. But you can give a clap and say, oh, well done, you finished 2nd. Well done, you made Champions League. No, unless you're lifting a trophy, you've lost. Unless you are lifting, and there are 4 trophies to win: Premier League, Champions League, FA Cup, League Cup. You could throw the Community Shield in there. You got 4 chances. Unless you walk away with one of those, you've had a failure of a season. That's a fact. That has to be a fact.
Genuinely, honestly, I'd never disregard a trophy, but we can't count the Community Shield.
No, all right. Yeah. So the 4. There's 4 of them.
It's like when you win the Lancashire Trophy between the reserves. You can't fucking parade that. It's a pre-season game. But I will. No, Fazz, I agree with you. I think the cups are so important, and like we just said there, West Ham are just below United because they won that trophy. They have lost their best player and replaced it with 3 quality players, making them better because they won what everyone called the Mickey Mouse European Trophy. Well, it doesn't look very Mickey Mouse that their team is better and they've got 50 million net in the bank and a better squad. Like, how's that Mickey Mouse and a trophy?
If anyone wants to call the trophy West Ham won a Mickey Mouse trophy, DM me. We'll have a chat because I'll talk to you for 6-7 hours and explain to you my entire history, the entire history of the football club, my entire life on why I'd say close to my kids being born, that was the greatest moment of my life when West Ham lifted that trophy. All right. So
I've got to say, I'm Fazz's mate, and I enjoyed it vicariously because I wanted West Ham to win just for him. Even I was
trophies.
Up and about.
Trophies is what it's all about.
Hey, tell you what, we won the Carabao last year, and I was elated, and I used to call it the Mickey Mouse Cup. But we finished with the worst fucking side in the world. I don't even know what to do anymore with these sides. Fazz has built me up saying you support a side to win trophies. Fuck. Yeah, here we are. Man United, obviously they've announced the deal. They're not selling the club to Qatari conglomerates anymore because that would be the sensible thing to do. Take the money and run. You're getting $1 billion for a club. But obviously Ratcliffe has come in a way that can't get more bizarre. He now owns 25% of the club. He's in charge of the football department, but he has to run everything by the current owners in the hopes that someday he will be able to silently buy the club by negotiating with the other shareholders of the club. An absolute fucking stupid thing. And this goes to what me and Fazz have been talking about. This, to me, United are in danger of becoming mid-table because if they don't win something this year, they don't get European football. Let's say the deal goes through and he gets it. Who the fuck is coming to United if we finish 10th this year and we've got nothing to show for it? We're going to be back in the situation we are now, overpaying complete fucking hacks to pay for my football team who are overpaid and under-outputted. And my next point is, Erik ten Hag is so out of his depth right now. He looks like a dolphin on top of the Empire State Building. Absolutely cooked. Without heart, without tenacity. He's distancing the players. And right now, Fazz, you know what? We are as mid-table as we can come. Because what we talked about, Ange, he plays his system. He gives it a go. United are fragile. They are vulnerable. And at the moment, are an absolute disgrace to a once great football club.
Yeah. That's passionate words. When you told me earlier today that this is what we're going to be talking about, I had a thought about what I wanted to say and how I wanted to address it. And I thought about this and I thought something I mentioned earlier in the show is about that fear of Manchester City, right? And the fear of will football ever be the same and blah, blah, blah. And thank God for Arsenal because they proven they were beatable. All right. The reason I bring that up is because it wasn't many moons ago that it was Manchester United that put the fear in everyone of are they never not going to be good. So when I look at them now, I say this gives hope that and shows everyone that nothing is infinite. Okay. Greatness isn't infinite. And there's a lot of Carlton about Manchester United. The fact there's only so many times you can go back to where Manchester United. There's only so many times that reputation of where Manchester United actually means something. Now, I link this to Liverpool. Now, Liverpool went through a massive, massive stretch of mid-table, occasionally sneaking into here and never looking like anything. I feel like that's where Manchester United are falling into that trap now. Liverpool lived and dined out on their "We are Liverpool," and that just became a joke. You just laugh at it, right? Like Richmond, very Richmond-like before they won their flags. It's like, okay, you're Liverpool, well done. Manchester United fall into that trap. When I hear Manchester United, it doesn't fill me with fear like it used to. It doesn't keep me up at night. And that's a dangerous place to be. How do you fix it? That's the $1 billion question. And I think you're right. I think Ten Hag is out of his depth. I think the owners are out of their depth. I think should they not make European football next season, you will definitely fall into mid-table mediocrity, because you know what? Old Trafford's not what it used to be. In fact, actually, I'll reword that. Old Trafford is exactly what it used to be, which is the problem.
Yeah.
Because it's a fucking shithole. I'm not going to lie. It is a shithole. It's fallen apart. It's bloody fallen apart. How they have not put money into that ground, I'm like, oh my God. Like, so yeah, it's worrying times. And I thought Ten Hag was going to be the savior and all that. Maybe that's the problem. Looking for the savior, looking for the quick fix. The signings have been
horrible.
Like, so my thought, how they fix it, you got to get grafters in. And that's very un-Manchester United like. And I know a lot of traditional Manchester United fans will come at me and say, no, we don't, we're Manchester United. We don't sign grafters. We don't sign English players. You know, you don't sign your guys who are willing to bleed and get, but that's how you do it. You got to get blokes in there who care about the league, who respect the league, and who respect the club. You got to look English. You've got to look English.
You know what? Jacob makes a good point. And you know what? I feel like the Glazers, I'm going to say this because I fucking hate the Glazers and I think they've overstayed their welcome, right?
Absolutely.
But they've been here since 05 and United have won titles and stuff, right? They've won titles since 05. Like, it hasn't all been bad. But I'll tell you what happened. And this is my big bugbear. United fans, and it feels like you've done something rotten. If you go into a forum at United at the minute and you mention Jose, you are lambasted. But I am number one Jose Mourinho fan. And I will say this. If Jose Mourinho was still at United, the Qatar takeover would have gone through, because Jose would have gone out in the media and said he is resigning if this bid's not accepted. He was like Fergie, he didn't stand for it. He called the Glazers out regularly, which ultimately was his undoing when Pogba cracked the sads and the Glazers used PR to make it sound like Jose had lost the dressing room, which we've seen with every coach. But the problem we've got at the moment with Ten Hag is you listen to him during the bollocks of the takeover, he's grateful to be at Manchester United. Like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, grateful for the job, because no one in their right mind would sign Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at a football club. Like Ten Hag, it was a Mickey Mouse league in the Dutch league. No one would have taken a punt. Man City wouldn't have taken a punt. Real Madrid wouldn't take the punt. United did, so he's grateful. And the problem we've got at the moment is we've got a guy trying to prove himself in the big boys league, alienating players. Sancho's not allowed to eat his lunch at the training park. Let that sink in, right? So for me, the only option is United need a coach to come in that fucks the Glazers. And I hate the answer, but the answer's Antonio Conte. Antonio Conte has a history of proving who's wrong at the club. Look at him at Tottenham. And I think Daniel Levy is a better chairman because of how Conte called him out and literally let the fans know Levy is a fucking idiot. And I think that's how you've got Ange, and Levy seems to be supporting him. But I fear Jacob's laughing. They'll sack Ten Hag and they'll bring in a puppet leader. It will be someone like Ryan Giggs, Wayne Rooney, because they're too nice. They'll come to help. Michael Carrick's my selection. Guaranteed is Michael Carrick. Old player. And he'll be grateful for the job. But until someone takes a stand at the Glazers, the players are going out there. The Glazers aren't. And they are undermotivated. It's the horrible team selections week in, week in. Man City's 3-0. I'm telling you this. I would lose to Liverpool 9-0 again, because at least United had 10 minutes of brilliant football. We went out to not lose, right? And 3-0 was what we wanted the score to be. That was par. Like, United are in a world of hurt, and Fazz is right. No side comes to Old Trafford and is intimidated. They're coming to take 3 points.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. I agree with you, and great shout with Michael Carrick. That is the most. It's more obvious him going to manage Manchester United than Raya and Ramsdale having a falling out, which we called months ago. Like it is so obvious that is what's going to happen. But I think, look, the other thing is I think it's got a lot to do with the players as well. I think I'm very big on when you're in the shit, you've got to be picking players who are going to graft. That's all. You've just got to pick players who are going to dig deep and fight it out. Do United have those players? I'm not 100% sure. But
you make a great point, though, Fazz, because the last 3 games Maguire played, we dropped him, right? But they've been solid. And he is the guy that if you're in the shit, you're kind of glad he's there, right? Because
absolutely.
He isn't fancy. He's no nonsense. You're right, Fazz, but that scares me. We are a mid-table side. We need grafters. We can't play football.
And that's the scary part, because that's not a Manchester United team. But look, the answer is clear. Like, we've seen the answer. The owners, they need to somehow relinquish some of the control. But to me, it's a hard watch, It's I don't fear Manchester United. And that's words that I never thought in my life I'd say, because 13-year-old Fazz was having nightmares about Manchester United. I was 15 years old and 16, and knowing we were playing Manchester United at Old Trafford the next morning, I asked Mum if I could come and give her a cuddle in bed because I was scared. That's a fact, mate. It was a scary place to be. But now,
as a Man United fan, we have the same feeling. Like, we've got Fulham this weekend. For 20 years of my life, Fulham's 3 points. People say, "Oh, it's a Craven Cottage." Still 3 points. I'm now in the mindset of, fuck, I'd take a point. Like, that is where it is.
That's wild.
Do you know what I mean? Where this was a guaranteed 3 points. Now I'm like, fuck, if we leave with a point, at least that's a point.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. And I don't know. And it's going to be, you might get a couple of results here and there. And Peter's right. Like, Old Trafford was just, but again, that's a thing that I raised before. You've got to progress as well. You've got to move forward. You can't always just dine out on who you were. I mean, we've been big on that with Carlton. I'm sick of hearing about 16 premierships because it's not relevant at the moment. It's relevant for the history, but it's not relevant at the moment. And Manchester United of 1992 is not relevant right now. It means nothing right now. And what scares me the most for United is you look up some of those highlights at Old Trafford and the ground looks exactly the same. There's been nothing upgraded. There's been nothing fixed. There's been nothing done with it. It's falling apart. I hear many, many stories of friends and family who go to the games and just like, you're taking a piss in the United toilets and you're looking at a bloke across you because there's a massive hole in the wall. Like, I know that's a toilet. That's not great, but if you can't respect, if the owners can't respect the most simple thing, which is your home ground, how can they respect the team in the league or anything like that? It's sad.
The big thing, and Jacob nails this, and Peter, and you just did that, very similar to Carlton, because the turning point for me for Carlton was when the fans turned on the team, right?
Yep.
In the Essendon game, turned on them. Let them know that we ain't standing for it. We believe more. My problem with United is the fans are in fucking cuckoo land, right? They say stupid shit like, and this is annoying me at the moment, and there's a lot of you on Twitter, and I bite my lip, but they go, Arsenal stuck by Arteta, right? And I'm like, okay, yeah, they did. First season, they finished 8th, won the FA Cup, right? We finished 3rd and won the Carabao Cup, and they say that we're better. Difference was Arteta was playing youth, right, for a start. You could see what he was trying to do, right? There was a plan. Ten Hag looks like he's literally thrown 11 darts at a dartboard, picked a team out, and gone out and played. This press conference this week, he said the most balmy thing. I don't play the Ajax way because these players aren't capable. And I'm like, you're fucking kidding me. Ajax players are bobbins. These are World Cup winners. Like, they should be able to do that and better. And what scares me is United fans are so stuck in their arse. Mark Goldbridge, I used to be a fan. He's an idiot, Jacob, at the moment. But how many professional geniuses do you need to know what's wrong? Van Gaal said the players were cancerous. Jose said the greatest achievement of his career, even above winning the Champions League with Porto, was getting United second, right? Let that sink in. Ragnick called the players cancerous and said that they need to be gutted, a direction needed to be built, and it needs to start again with young, hungry players. How many times do United fans need to be told that it's not just the Glaziers? We are literally just buying these big-name players. Casemiro, we needed De Jong. He was the player Ten Hag wanted. We wouldn't match the price. Then suddenly we lose to Brentford, and next day, Casemiro out of the blue for twice his worth, right? Anthony, we doubled the value that we were haggling. We had to get them in to shut the fans up. That's the problem with United. Everything is a fugazi. Everything is PR, and no one needs to face facts. The players are shit. They are cancerous. They are literally, every day they step out on the pitch, they might as well piss on the Holy Trinity. Like that bollocks of wearing black armbands and taking a knee from Bobby Charlton, they are pissing on that guy's grave the way they treat this football club. They are a disgrace. And until someone wakes up and lets them know they are overpaid fucking fraudsters, United are always going to be shit.
And you're spot on. You're spot on. And Chris hits it here. You know, should United get a young coach with a clear plan? I agree. But as I keep saying, it is such a balance. Like, it is such a fine line because you actually don't have time in the Premier League. We've spoken about it. You can't rebuild in the Premier League. In world football, you can't rebuild. You can't just say, all right, we're going to remove all this. Because the money involved in it is just astonishing. And we don't, teams don't get the time. And this is what I'm saying, you know, with Arsenal, they're going to prove that at some point. You just don't simply get time. Be it from the owners, be it from the supporters, be it from whoever. Now, the similarities between Manchester United and Carlton are so shockingly and scarily, you know, like accurate. You know, the fact that, again, the fans dining out on what used to be, dining out on it's okay, we'll be the best, dining out on that's fine, we'll just spend and get the best players in, doesn't work. It doesn't work. Carlton proved it didn't work. United are proving it's not going to work. You need to get the right players in, the right people in for the right price. No one, and I'll use West Ham as an example in this regard, and it's completely different spectrums. But no sane person would sit there and say Ward-Prowse is better than Rice. No chance. Kudos is better than Rice. No chance. Alvarez is better than Rice. No chance. Rice is better than all three of them. But getting the right people in makes you a better team. And the players, for me, I'd be looking at the players who've been there for all this time, you know, and start saying, what does United mean to you? What does United mean to you? Because I'd love to hear what does Manchester United mean to Marcus Rashford? What does it mean? I don't know the answer to that.
Well, I mean, the way he's playing at the moment, it probably means that he didn't go to trade school and stayed a virgin until he was 23.
Yeah, well, but,
huge win.
Yeah, but I think, and it is obviously hot topic at the moment, given the David Beckham Netflix series we've all seen. But if anyone who's unsure about what we're talking about, and I'm assuming if you're watching this show, you are well aware of the history of the Premier League and all that, just go back and look and listen and watch about what Manchester United meant to David Beckham and meant to these players and what it still means to them. what it meant to Beckham's dad, what it meant to all these people. I just don't know if that's the same anymore.
Bad decisions. I mean, you look at old days, Keane would die for a blade of grass, and we've got Bruno who's complaining about time added on at half time. Like, that's not the United way. We get down to business. Do you know what I mean?
And look, I will put the caveat by saying I think that aspect's dead across the board. Like, I think you could almost count on one hand the players who in the Premier League who have love or loyalty for the club they're playing. And I reckon, dead set, across the 20 clubs, you probably count players on one hand. But that doesn't mean they're not trying. That doesn't mean they don't care. What it means is that they're there to do a job. And I think there's a big gap between, all right, Manchester United players are there to pick up their paycheck. Look at me, I'm a Manchester United player. Where Arsenal players, they're there to do a job. You can see them there to do a job, right? I've said it many times again. Declan Rice don't love Arsenal. They don't, but they're there to do a job. They're there to get the job done. And that's why they're where they are and where United are where they are, because their players, not only do they not love the club, but they're not there to get the job done. It's crazy.
As horrible as it sounds, and I think United fans hate me for this comment, but I would say Harry Maguire is a much better suited captain of Manchester United than Bruno is. I feel like United have fallen into a trap of giving their best player the leadership role,
mate,
when in reality he's not.
And let's be serious. Let's be serious, right? Harry Maguire, I don't know his history. I don't know who he grew up supporting. I don't know, right? He played for what, Leicester? Did he play for Hull? I think he played for Hull.
Yeah, he did.
Hull,
he was at Hull for a while.
Yep, right, cool. I don't know anything about Harry Maguire. But what I do know is he knows what Manchester United is, was, and can be. Bruno Fernandes, what is Manchester United to him? Like, nothing. He wouldn't have grown up even caring about Manchester United. Yeah, maybe they're a big club and all that. Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, these internationals come down. They mean, and maybe Manchester United is a bad example because they are a worldwide club. But I always laugh when I see an international player for West Ham banging the badge when they score a goal. I'm like, fuck, mate, you didn't even know West Ham existed 5 years ago. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the same. All these international players, they don't understand. They think they understand. They think because, oh yeah, I bought a Manchester United shirt when I was 5 years old in Portuguese bloody $2 shop, right? They don't understand. They don't know what it means. How you can have Fernandes as the captain, especially in the time of what you're going through, it makes no sense to me. And I look back and I use the West Ham as example again because it's what I know best. But look at Mark Noble. When shit was at its toughest, who did the managers always turn to? Mark Noble. Because he knew what it meant. He knew what the club meant, and he knew what the fans meant, and knew how the fans felt. Harry Maguire has to be that person they turn to. And people won't like that because, again, Manchester United fans are very similar to Carlton fans in that regard. Because he's not sexy, because he's not highlights package galore, they don't rate him. It's wild.
Well, hopefully this time next week, United have smashed Fulham and I'm back on the Ten Hag train.
Absolutely.
I'm wearing it. But chat, thank you very much. Fazz, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the new style. I thought that was a lot more fun and gave me and Fazz a chance to just talk shit. But make sure you watch the football this weekend. We'll be back next week. Much love, everyone. See you soon.
See yous.